Greetings, welcome to the second tutorial. Let's launch ProTools, get this started. We're going to have a quick look at some of the editing functions in ProTools. Since the first tutorial, all we did was looked at the sort of plugin architecture, although we didn't even really get into any depth on that either. We just made some sounds, that's all we did. So we're just launching ProTools. I've got my spinning cursor of death, which we never like to see on the Macintosh, but I'm sure it'll work itself out any moment now. Any moment now. Okay, I was getting kind of tired of that. Alright, so we're going to create another blank session. All these default settings are fine. Good, we'll need to give it a name. Session 2V or something, who knows. So again, we've got our three windows that commonly come up in Pro Tools. We've got our transport here, we've got our command equals to shift to our mix, between our mix and edit windows, or control equals if you like. First thing I'm going to do is use this. See, at the moment we've got this grabber tool, we've got nothing to grab. We're going to want to use the selector tool. First we're going to want to make a new track, so again it's Command Shift N for Nelly, or Control Shift N if you're on a PC. And we've got the choice of making mono or stereo. We're going to make a mono audio track. That's great. So here's our audio track in the edit window. I can use this selector tool to select part of the track, and I'm just choosing 8 seconds or so. You can see how much I've taken here by looking at the counter window where we have the start. This is showing me where the start of the cursor is and the end of the cursor is at about 8 seconds or so. You can change the time base for the counter just by clicking on that little tab there, and you can toggle between looking at bars and beats, minutes and seconds, or samples. Samples, I've never really had much use for looking at samples as a time base, but if we just go under, with this amount selected, 8 seconds or so, go under the audio suite menu here and go other. We'll use this signal generator again, and instead of using a sine tone, I think we'll use pink noise. We could preview this. It's great, it's a bit quiet. Oh yeah, that's more like it. So make it up a little louder. Minus 4.5 dB is what I've hit. And so I'm going to do when I hit process, a couple of things we'll notice is, first we've got some audio here in our track that we created, and we've also got a region in the regions list, which shows us that we have a region. Audio regions, that's how we deal in Pro Tools. For example, if we just take a short amount out of the center of this file, or just a little bit out of the middle of this, and just select a little bit in the center there and hit delete, you'll notice that we just got rid of part of the center of that audio. The first thing we might notice is that now we have two new regions. We have, if I double click on this region at the start, we'll notice that we've got this audio region, which is the first part of the original audio region, and this one is just the second part of the audio region. We can zoom in on this so we can see this in greater detail. Just click on the zoomer tool and drag across that area in the track, and we can see that we've got this audio region. If you want to see all of the audio that you have in your session, you can double click the zoomer tool. It's good for zooming back out. Like if we zoom way in and just keep zooming in until we can see individual samples. Excuse me, need more coffee or something. You can see we can zoom right in, we can actually see individual samples, and we can zoom back out by double clicking on that zoomer tool. Alright, so the first thing I might want to do to change the shape of this noise is I might want to fade this little guy out here. So we could, for example, just select everything beyond the end and just a little bit in, or almost all the way in, and hit Command F. That brings up the fade dialog. I might actually choose something that fades out much faster, so I can click on this blue line and drag downwards, or to the left maybe. Okay, so if I hit OK, and if I want to hear that, I can hit the space bar on my computer there. If I want the cursor to go back just to the start of the track, I can hit return on my keyboard, and that will place the cursor at the very start of the track. So we've got a nice little noisy fade out thing. Like maybe I want to put a little filter on this, and so I can select this entire region by holding shift if there's more than one region, and there is this fade region here as well. So we can select that entire region, again go under Audio Suite and go back to our favorite EQ, the one band EQ, and we'll let's make a low pass on this. We just click the low pass for type, and maybe we'll make the filter frequency a little bit lower. We can also change the Q of that so we get it a little steeper. Hit process, you don't really see anything because this stupid window's in the way. Again, hit return on the keyboard to hear what that sounds like. It's creating a little click in there, which is a little worrisome. Alright, so let's say we want to play around with two sounds. So I'm not going to delete the end of this. Instead, I'm going to Command E, which is going to separate the region. Command E is for separating. And then I can double click this part at the end, which I don't really want. I can just hit delete and it will remove that. And what we want to do here, maybe we'll do another fade. So we'll select everything from beyond there onto the end. Hit Command F for the fade. That's perfect. And again, we can put some kind of EQ on this just by selecting, double clicking there and double clicking, whoops, too much, double clicking there and double click the start of that thing. And then we can go again under Audio Suite. We'll do an EQ, one band EQ. I'm going to instead this time take a high pass, like make the frequency a little higher and do that and make it process, and there we go. We have two. You can see that these two audio regions have been generated by Audio Suite. That's the biggest difference between Audio Suite and the inserts, is that Audio Suite actually generates regions, creates new regions. Very good. So here's the grabber tool, the one that looks like a hand. And you can see at the moment we can sort of willy-nilly move these around. And I suppose we can demonstrate some of these other editing modes, like shuffle mode. If I try and drag this thing around, it doesn't go anywhere, but it just wants to snap to the end of the other region. So shuffle is primarily for making things snap into, for regions to snap to each other. Slip allows you to drag things around however you like. And then grid, if we click on the grid, we'll see we have absolute and relative. We might go into that in some greater detail. And now when I drag this thing, it's going to snap to a grid, which we can see the grid by the blue lines. We could also look at the sort of resolution of that grid. I'm not seeing that because I'm zoomed in too close, but anyway. So there's our little audio files here. We can see maybe one thing that we might want to do is to make a quick beat. We could duplicate these two regions just by selecting the two of them and then holding down the Option key and dragging, so that will duplicate our regions. And if we then hit return again on the keyboard, we can hear that we've got this really kind of slow beat that if we wanted to repeat over 4 bars, we could select the 4 bars here. If you want it to loop, because if we just, well, it is in loop playback, fine. That's great. It's not very musical. So there's a couple of things we've gone into there. Is fades, Audio Suite, where you generate new regions with effects or signals, as we just did before. We have the 3 editing modes that we often use: shuffle, slip, grid. The only one that we didn't use here is the spot. The reason you really don't use spot unless you're doing work for video, because it brings up this timecode dialog box, which means nothing to most of us. Alright, so we'll check you in the next tutorial.